Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel's Making with Marilyn. Now I do all things crafty, but on today's video I'm going to use the materials that you see right here to make what I hope turns out to be a super cute wall hanging for my sister. Now on a recent video I made this wall hanging for myself, but I used a Glowforge to cut the M out. I wanted today's video to be more Cricut friendly, so here's what I'm going to do. I have my unfinished wood panel. I'm going to paint it with chalk paint. After that dries, I'll take my sanding block, sand it down because I'm going kind of for a beachy feel. I'm going to cut the letter D out of this HTV. Now you could use heat transfer vinyl, you could use regular vinyl. I'll even talk about a way that you could use a sublimation printer instead of heat transfer vinyl. Now after I have my HTV cut out, I'm going to use my Cricut Easy Press to press it on. Now, because my panel isn't really just flat, it has sides. If for some reason it's not really flat, I may not get great pressure throughout. If that happens, I have my little Cricut Easy Press Mini here to save the day. Now, a few other miscellaneous things. I have my weeding tool, some parchment paper, a paintbrush, and then I'll also use my computer and my Cricut. So that it has time to dry while I'm working on the design, first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and paint this. So I'm just putting this Amazon bag under it to protect my table or to protect my cutting mat. And then again, this is chalk paint. I'm going to shake it up just to make sure it's good and mixed. Now when I'm pressing HTV onto wood and I want it to be a painted surface, I have had the most success with chalk paint. I've tried other paints, just like a craft acrylic paint, and I've had some successes and I've had some fails. So with that paint, I have had it where when you are pulling the transfer or the carrier sheet off the HTV, I have found that it's also pulled up the HTV with some of the paint. I've also seen where when I'm using a regular craft paint, when I put the heat press on, it kind of makes it melt and not really bubble, but just get a little bit weird looking. So I tend to stick with chalk paint because I've had the most success with it. Now because I'm going to sand this down anyway, I'm only going to use one coat. And I don't really care if you see some of the brush strokes in it, because when I sand a lot of this away, those horizontal lines is really what I'm kind of trying to achieve. Kind of a bleached out look. Now, because this wood panel has a backside that is also usable for another craft, I do want to paint the sides as well. So I'll just go ahead and finish the rest of this. I'll just fast forward through that. Then while it's drying, I'll get over onto the computer and I'll show you the design that I'm going to use and how I'll do some slight edits. Now the first thing that I want to do is show you my file. I've already downloaded it once, but I want to show you the process. So I'm going to go to my profile, my downloads, and the file that we're going to work with is right down here. And it's this Alphabet A to Z Laser Paper Cut SVG bundle. So I'll click on download. Now I accidentally clicked on it twice. I was being impatient. Now when I download something, it just goes straight to a downloads folder. So let me go ahead and open that. And remember, I accidentally hit it twice. So here it is right here. I'm going to click on that so I can see what's in it. And the only thing that I want is this SVG file. So I'll drag that over to my desktop, and then I'm just going to close out of that. All right. So now let's go ahead and open up Cricut. And I'm going to say New Project, Upload, Upload Image. Now typically I would hit Browse. I don't know that I've ever brought anything in this other way. So I see it over on my desktop. I'm just going to drag it here. Since it's already the SVG, I can just say Upload. Now that it's uploaded, I'm just going to click on it and say Add to Canvas. Okay, the only thing that I want out of this today is the D. I'm going to click on Ungroup, and then I'm going to drag that out of the way. That way I can just select everything else and delete. Now to see what size I want to go ahead and mimic the 8x8 square of my project board. So I'm just going to click on a square. The proportions are locked, so I'll plug in 8, and now it's 8x8. Let's go ahead and send that to the back, and then I'm going to change it just a really light gray. Now I can either select this and drag it to the size I want, or let's say I actually know what size I want it, I could plug it in up here. But I'm just going to kind of look at it and see what I like. All right, I think that looks good. So for now, if I want to, I can go ahead and delete this. I'm just going to hide it in case I want to see it once I'm done with my next step. Now my next step, because some of these are so thin and narrow, is to put a slight offset onto this. That's going to thicken those lines up. So I'll select the D, I'll go up here to offset, and if I went with the 0.25 that they have on there now, it's going to show up in a minute. It would be huge. Let me show you. I would lose so much of my detail. So I don't want to do that. Let's go back. I'm going to start with something really tiny. Let's start with 0.02. I'll go ahead and apply it. And then we'll drag off the original D. And actually that looks pretty good. So I think I will just stick with this. Now, one thing I don't like is, see the little bitty skinny line in there? I'm going to try to get rid of that. So with this selected, I'll go to Contour. There's going to be a ton of little details here. Now to me, the easiest way to find it is to just go right over here. Okay, see how it changed colors when I got to it? So I'm off of it and it's medium to dark gray, and then I click onto it, or I just slide onto it, it gets darker. So I'll click there, and what that did is that hid it. So I can find it over here. And like I said, there's a lot of details. Okay, there it is right here. So to hide something, you can either click on it here or you can find it here. I can tell it's hid or hidden because this is darker gray. So now I can just X out and notice it's gone. Now I think everything else is going to be fine. Let me go ahead and say make it. Well, first of all, let me bring this back. Still looks fine. So now I can just click on this and delete it. And for now, I'm just going to hide that one. Now this is HTV. So I either need to cut it in the mirror view, or for me, it's easier to remember just right now to flip it horizontally. So I'll go ahead and say make it, and then I'll hit continue, and I'll select just the regular, let's see, where is it? And then I'm just going to select this everyday iron-on. All right, so at this point we're ready to cut. So let me move the camera to in front of my Cricut. I am really going to just fast forward through this. I might show you the beginning of it and the ending of it because this cut's going to take a while. And once it's done, I'll let you know how long it took. So I'm going to start weeding this, but I'm not going to show you the whole thing because this is going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. But what I do like to do is take out the centers or the large pieces because they're easy to take out. And then I like to take the outside off, and then that kind of gives me my basic shape, kind of gives me my bearings. And I love how HTV weeds, especially stretchy HTV. Now, did this project need stretchy HTV? It definitely did not, because a shirt needs stretchy HTV, but my wood panel's not going to stretch. It's just what I had, and it's nice and thin, so when it's on the board, it really flattens down and melts into the board nicely. So there's my basic shape. Like I said, I'll weed this. I'll either fast forward through it or I'll skip part of it. And then when we come back, I'm going to go ahead and sand the board. So here's what it would look like so far. And that bright blue and the crisp white looks really pretty. But again, I do want a slightly beachy feel. So I'm going to do some light sanding and see how that turns out. Now I don't think I'll sand on the sides really because I don't know what I'm going to put on the back yet. So if the back has solid white around it, I don't want the sides sanded. So I'll just start with the top and doing just a very light sanding. I definitely want to see more white than wood. Okay, I mainly see white. I can see just a little bit of the wood grain through there. I don't know if you can or not, hopefully so. But now what I'm going to do is just kind of distress the edges, and then I think I'm going to call that good. Now, if I wasn't doing this for video, I definitely would have taken this outside and used a sander, like an orbital sander. This worked. It just took a little bit of elbow grease. So pretty much white, which is what I wanted. A little distressing around the edges, and then ever so slightly, I can see some wood grain. Okay, so for this vinyl, I want to use a heat of 320. So I'm going to push the little thermometer, move that down to 320, and then I want a time of 20 seconds. So push the little time clock and raise that to 20. Now while it's heating, I can go ahead and kind of figure out where I want my D to go. Really, I just want it pretty much centered. Now I say I want it centered. From top to bottom I want it centered. But because this does dip in a little bit, but because there's almost equal space on this side, but this side with the curve of the D, there is a whole lot more white space. So I'm going to have a little less space from here to here versus here to the edge on the left side. I think that kind of balances out that white space. All right, we're up to temperature, so I'm going to use a piece of parchment paper on top. And again, I'm heating this at 320 degrees for 20 seconds. And I'm pushing down a little bit. All right, sometimes on wood, it takes a little more time, so let's see if it's going to stay down yet. All right, started lifting right there. It's not lifting everywhere though. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn on my little Easy Press Mini, and I'll put it on medium, so 2 bars light up. I'll let that heat up, and then I'll just strategically press where I see it lifting. Now I'm just going to press where it's lifting for about 5 seconds. Then I'll check it again. And what's funny is when it's lifting, I can kind of hear it pulling itself off of the painted wood. So I can tell when it's starting to lift by listening. All right, start to lift there at the very end. So press that. Then what I want to do with the Easy Press, I'm going to press back over the whole thing for about 5 to 10 more seconds. That is so pretty. Hopefully you can see the details, and you can tell it really doesn't look like just vinyl sitting on top of the wood. Now, one time I made the mistake of spraying a sealant over the top, and the solvents or something in that sealant, when it hit this, it made it kind of pucker. So I don't do that now. I could probably get away with using like a Mod Podge, but really I don't see the need to do that. Okay, so now I want to put some little hooks in the top of this. I have these little bitty hooks that screw into the wood. And if I had my drill up here, what I would do is I'd use a tiny, tiny little drill bit and I'd pre-drill. I probably should do that, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to see if I can screw that in just by hand. Oh, that's going to take forever. Okay, so I found a drill and I have a tiny little drill bit. Anytime you're pre-drilling for screws, you want your drill bit to be smaller than the outside of these little, I can't remember what those are called. But if your drill bit's too big, you've just ruined the hole where your screws go down in. So you want your hole to be big enough for the tip of the screw to go in, but not as big as the outside. Okay? I don't know if that made sense. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Now I'm going to turn the volume down, and I'm putting holes, I don't know, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in. Okay, now here's how I decided to finish this off. I have a piece of twine, and then I have a couple of these little wood, they're unfinished wood beads. So I'm going to tie, I think I can get away with a single knot if I put a little bit of glue in the knot. So I have my glue gun, and it is heated up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in between those two pieces and tie a single knot. And then I'll just cut off the excess. Now, I am a crafter, but at times I'm not very crafty. And my sister is very crafty, so if she doesn't like how I finish this off, and I wouldn't blame her if she didn't, because it looks pretty pathetic. But if she doesn't like how I finish this off, she can just cut this off and do something cuter, more creative. I would not be offended in the least. Okay. So I need to move the twine so that glues back down right by my little hook. All right. Now, I don't think that shows up too well on this wood table. So let me go ahead and put my cutting mat back down. And there we are. That's cute. Again, if she wants to change out this top piece, she can do that. But I think this is adorable. Now remember, there are options. You could use adhesive vinyl, HTV, plain wood, painted wood. You can even use some lamination film over the board and then sublimate on top of it. Now I'm going to have a link to this file as well as a link to a $1 trial membership for 1 month, all access, and that'll be in the video descriptions. So if you have any questions, suggestions for improvement, or any comments whatsoever, let me know by leaving a comment to the video. Thanks again, and until my next one, bye-bye.